Welcome back to BizTalk, everyone. I am your host, Rachel Weaver. I am thrilled to have with me today Lalit. He is the CEO of DigitalXForce and iTrustXForce. It is such an honor and pleasure to have you with us today.
Thank you, Rachel. Pleasure is mine. Thank you.
I am excited to dive right in to talk to you today about insider threats. As
Mm-hmm.
scary as that might sound, it actually is scary. But how
Yeah.
can I mitigate the risks of insider threats, such as disgruntled employees, for example, in business?
Yeah. So, Rachel, let me actually tell you a little story before, or a use case before we get into this, because
Yeah.
people don't really fully realize and how important this is. But it is a critical aspect, the insider threat aspect in any business. There was a utility company out on the West Coast. Okay, this was a few years back we're talking about. The one of the employees who pretty much like control the whole utility department over there did not feel that he was properly appraised and given promotion, and he felt bad about it. And guess what? He locks everything, all the systems, and walks away, and nobody has any clue on what's going on because he had the keys to the kingdom. That's an example of insider threat, like how one person who, for now, there could be a variety of reasons. This was like more like logical, like I didn't get promoted and I'm not happy about it, and I don't like, not interested in this anymore, and you screw the organization right over there.
Mhm.
But there could be many other, like, reasons why you should be paying attention to scenarios such as insider threat. Now, what is needed to mitigate this kind of insider threats is, number one, the philosophy of, like, be able to, number one, define what is insider threat for you, be have a process to identify and detect, and then be able to manage the insider threat, like when that happens, like how to manage it and be able to respond to it. That's the technique you really want to really employ in there. Now, the common methods that you really, once you kind of done that, that you deploy to really mitigate those risks is, number one, train your employees and train your users and conduct the regular trainings on that matter. Always coordinate between information technology and the HR department, sometimes even the legal department if you have one, right? Because there's no like shortage, like, where, like, some instances like this really has happened, and your IT needs to work with the HR and other departments to really make sure these threats are mitigated. Also, expect, like, sometimes the bad things will happen. So have some kind of a threat hunting team in place, or forensics and stuff when like those things happen. What if somebody steals your IP, intellectual property, and leaves? What are you going to do then? So you need to have that in place as well. And then, of course, employ the user behavior analytics, because sometimes the behavior of like how you're behaving, oh, Rachel is not logging in proper times, or she's trying to access certain files which she never done before. Like the certain activities they should start doing, or sending a lot of, content, over the emails, over the wire, or take, like, things at home and other things, right? Will crop up. So you got to, like, employ the user behavior analytics solutions to really also make sure you're able to mitigate the risk. So those are some of the common methods you deploy for that.
Wow. Super interesting story, first of all, but such great information, because it really is something that we need to keep in mind, especially
Mm-hmm.
growing companies, and you become so focused on the growth and maybe build trust in people faster than we
Right.
might, typically need to. And this can bring about things that
Mm-hmm.
we don't want to think about, but we really should. So,
Exactly.
such great information. So, what tools and practices can help in monitoring employee behavior for potential threats so we know what to watch for?
Mm. Well, some of the kind of tools and technology, or even call as procedures, right, that you can deploy for insider threat prevention, that will include, start with, like, setting some kind of a policy, some kind of point of reference, like what you should do and how to really deploy, like, such things. Then always kind of like, put together some kind of a threat detection governance program, like including who are the stakeholders, like from legal or from IT or from HR that needs to be notified when something like this happens, right? And who needs to follow. Especially in a country like ours, like in the US, you can also be victim of where people like feel like discriminated because you might like take certain action and people might sue you for certain things as an employer doing so, why you're taking that action. So it's very important your policy defines those matters and then how you really kind of trying to mitigate threat while not like invading into the privacy of the users itself, right? The other thing then is like secure your infrastructure, your network, like including what if Rachel has access to all the data on the servers or in her machine and she can plug in a USB drive and take all the data out, right? Or she has access to social media and she can blast if she's not happy with something or she finds like some other motivation, she blasts all my data on the social media and stuff. How to like really protect that infrastructure, the network, and also map your exposure, what channels can be exploited when some like an insider threat happens so that my damage is limited over there. Of course, you also want to make sure like, the security controls, like whether it's strong authentication. We talked about like, how to have proper access for proper users or data being encrypted and other things, right? Put in place there. Prevent any kind of data exfiltration. Like one of the most common use case that we really see when insider threat happens, people want to take all your sensitive data and the files or IP like away with you. So make sure that data infiltration processes are in place, right? And always monitor any kind of like ideal data that's sitting in your environment, like why or this idle accounts, because they can come back and like really be used for malicious purposes. So these are some of the things like as the best practices for insider threat prevention in any environment.
Mhm. Very good information. So, what should be included in an employee exit strategy to protect business data?
Yeah. So the big thing is first communication itself. So when someone is leaving or like something like this happening, make sure the folks like within the company, whether it's the IT or the HR department, even the people who are working with this person, like that we have identified as an insider threat, they've been communicated, like when the person is leaving or not. Making sure that the access is properly taken care of means you disable the access and change the passwords and stuff. Also recover any kind of assets that are owned by this person, right? Like whether it's the mobile devices, whether it's a laptop or a machine, or even other kind of like things that have been assigned. And that's the reason why asset management, like asset inventory, comes in play. Make sure you analyze the data or those devices as well as other systems for no malicious activity happen, and then do the proper data remediation. Sometimes, by the way, you'll also have to keep those devices and stuff for a certain period of time, just in case you are part of the litigation and stuff. So important criteria to follow. Don't just clean up the day one everything. You check with your legal and privacy, right? What's the kind of like the data retention policies or other things that you have to really do for a certain period of time. And then of course, like, make sure like, you are monitoring the systems and the devices and any actions on the network, like, for that kind of user when they've left, right, over there. Last but not the least, there are times when you will need a forensics expert because you're part of the litigation or like, you suspect there's some IP and other things. Make sure you have those kind of context and, processes and teams ready at your disposal when you need them. Don't be like, stranded like at the last minute. So these are some of the things like, that you can like, employ to, as part of the employee exit strategy, right? To protect your business data.
Such great information. Really appreciate you being on and sharing your expertise. Where can we find you?
Well, you can reach us on our websites, whether it's DigitalXForce.com or iTrustXForce.com. There's a lot of valuable data information provided and shared every day, every week with the audience. Of course, they can send us an email, and the email addresses are part of those websites as well. Or they can reach us on the social media such as LinkedIn, Lalit Ahluwalia on LinkedIn, and you can find that information too.
Thank you so much. So great having you with us. And with that, we are so grateful that you joined us today on BizTalk. We will see you all again next week.
Wonderful. Thank you, Rachel. Once again, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Take care.
This has been a Now Media Networks feature presentation. All rights reserved.